Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I have a few things that I want to talk about today. There's a lot of stuff actually came out today, and this is what I was really excited about in terms of the promotion for the show, was things that I kind of heard about. And one thing that I actually did hear about is actually, it was confirmed today, or I believe yesterday. And so I want to talk about that and get into some of that. And we also have the release dates for the next, I guess, 5 episodes of The Walking Dead. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the release dates, again, it could be a mistake, but it doesn't seem like it's airing weekly, or it is airing weekly, but the time between episode 1 and 2 looks like, as of now anyways, seems to be a little different. But anyways, we'll get into that once we get into that. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. The show is returning exactly in 25 days. I shouldn't say returning, but Rick and Michonne are returning in 25 days. And so, yeah, we're basically at this point 3.5 weeks until the show premieres. Tomorrow is February 1st. That's kind of the day in my head that I've been like, all right, once it's February 1st, time to start uploading a bunch of videos and all that. So that's what I'm going to be doing starting tomorrow. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. So first of all, the first big thing that we got was the Walking Dead and Call of Duty Warzone collaboration that was actually confirmed yesterday. Now, I heard about this a long time ago, and I was just curious as to like what was going to be happening with it. Like, was it going to be coming out in February or in March? Now, we don't actually have a release date yet. They haven't announced anything, and from my experience, just being hyped about like skins or like DLC or like a new season and stuff for Call of Duty, it doesn't really seem, I mean, I guess the seasons you kind of know when they're roughly coming out, but in terms of the new skins and stuff, like, it just seems to happen kind of randomly. So I'm expecting that it will drop at some point. I mean, they announced it the other day, like yesterday, I believe. So I'm guessing at some point by the end of February or something like that. It could be with the new season, a week or two into the new season. I'm not sure when the new season is starting. Based off of previous seasons in the past, they usually do release in February. So I'm assuming it's going to be at some point by the end of the month. I mean, the show's coming out February 25th. It's probably going to be around there, like late February or maybe even like early March. Whenever it does come out, though, I will be streaming on Twitch. I'm going to be playing this game quite a bit. Like, I love playing Warzone. I played Warzone a lot. I haven't played it a lot in the last year, but before that, I used to play it a lot. Honestly, like, Warzone, I guess 1, I played a lot. Warzone 2, we did get into quite a bit, but I wasn't that excited about, and I haven't really checked out Season 3 yet, and I was aware of some of this Warzone stuff, a little bit into, going into the holiday season and stuff, and so I just kind of waited at that point. I was like, you know what? I'll wait to try out the new season and all that once the Walking Dead crossover thing happens, and then I can actually experience all that. So it looks like you're going to be able to play as Rick and Michonne. So that's very, very cool. I actually like the way that they announced it, because the teaser was actually done in a way where it really hyped up, like, or first of all, there's a lot of callbacks to like zombies, right? Like in Black Ops, like they actually had like they had a few little things in there. And to me, honestly, the first thing that came to mind was like, why didn't this happen sooner? And I know people are trying to say, like, I've seen some people on there, and I've seen actually somewhere there was like an article written where it was like, oh, this is too late or something like that, and like this is so outdated, like The Walking Dead is so outdated, no one cares about it anymore. That's really not true. Like, yes, The Walking Dead isn't as popular and all that, but from literally the majority of the comments that I'm seeing, people are so excited to play as Rick Grimes. They're like, wow, that like this should have happened already, kind of thing. And that part I do agree with. I feel like this sort of a crossover should have happened a long time ago. But to me, it's like I just think that's kind of a ridiculous argument to make, because if you're going back to Black Ops 1 and 2 and all of that, like you had Robert Englund, and a bunch of other horror icons that were, you could argue, way far past their prime, right? Like Nightmare on Elm Street came out, in the 80s and stuff. So to me, it's just kind of like, no, there's iconic characters in the horror genre. They're doing a crossover. It kind of makes sense to me. Like, The Walking Dead is having a big show come out. It's not like they're just randomly doing it with like a random show, which first of all isn't a bad thing, because that's just marketing and promotion. But it's coming out with a new show right away. Like, I could see if maybe it was like season 10 or 11 of The Walking Dead and people being like, that it's kind of random because it's just like another season. But because there's a special event happening, I don't think a lot of people know that part about it too, is that there's an actual special event happening and Rick and Michonne are returning. So there's a lot of little things like that, and for me, I just think that this crossover is absolutely amazing. I will be streaming this on Twitch, so definitely go follow me on Twitch. My channel name is Appetite for the Dead. I will be streaming this like every single day, the second it comes out, because again, I love Warzone. I love The Walking Dead. To be able to play as Rick and Michonne, I think is going to be just absolutely insane. And you kind of see what their characters look like a little bit. It seems like Michonne's outfit, I mean, we don't really know what her outfit's actually going to look like, but I'm assuming it's going to be the Ones Who Live outfit. It looks like it's going to be the look she has in The Ones Who Live, which is very, very good. With Rick, it almost looks like a mix of what he looks like in the I guess the Ones Who Live arc, as well as combined with like previous seasons and stuff like that, because he has the murder jacket, which is like, I mean, obviously he's not going to have that here on the show. That would be so cool if like in the finale he found a jacket that was very similar and he put it on, because I mean, obviously that's sort of his style, right? So like he would like a jacket like that. It wouldn't be the murder jacket, but maybe it's the new murder jacket. That would be really cool. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to be getting that. I just think in general, this sort of collaboration, I think, is so perfect, because again, a lot of people play Warzone. Like a lot of people play Warzone. It's one of the biggest games out there right now. And I think it just makes sense to have Rick and Michonne there. It really does. And I can't wait. I'm getting both of them like literally the same day that it comes out. So I'm going to be constantly staying on this, and whenever it goes live, I will be live on Twitch as well. I will be playing this, and I'm so excited for this. Honestly, I really wish, like, honestly, this should have been something that they did going back to, I mean, that's the thing. Okay, so this is the one thing that I would say, and this isn't really necessarily Walking Dead related, but it's Black Ops Zombies related. So Black Ops Zombies for the longest time now really hasn't been that great. But if they were to ever make a Black Ops Treyarch game again, so if it would be a Black Ops, I guess 6, if you're including that Black Ops Cold War was Black Ops 5, or maybe they're just gonna go and call it Black Ops 5. If they were ever to go back to like round-based zombies again and do all of that, maybe just have like 4 characters that are like literally the most random characters. Honestly, a character you should bring back is Shane, because I've seen comments of people saying, bring Shane back. And I was thinking about it, like, you don't really think about that character a lot, but bringing Shane back, and the thing is, you could bring a bunch of random characters from a lot of different franchises. Like, what about Walter White? Like, use Walter White, Shane Walsh, pick 2 other characters and just have them in a story, just like you did with Call of the Dead years ago, right? Like, that was amazing. And then you had George Romero walking around and stuff. Like, that's the stuff that made it so fun. Like, it was just awesome. And so I just think that they should go back to something like that. People would really, really like that. If you don't want to use Shane, then use Daryl or use Negan, because you know they're next, right? Like, people are going to be really wanting those characters to be on here. But yeah, we'll have to see how this goes. But I'm very, very excited about this. Now, the other thing that I wanted to get into here, and this is also very, very fascinating, and that is the episode titles and the episode release dates for The Ones Who Live. And I was actually caught by surprise with this. I will say I'm not a fan of the episode titles for episode 4 and 5. Depends on what episode 6 is, but I'm not really that, I don't know, I'm not that excited about 4 and 5, but let's get into this here first. So the episode titles here for episode 1 to 3, we already know this. It's Years Gone By, right? Episode 4 is titled What We, and 5 is titled Become. So that's What We Become, which if you actually go back to, you know, what that episode actually means, if you do remember, because it just happened recently, or I say recently, but that was like actually quite a long time ago now. It's Michonne's final episode. You know, I think the Easter egg to that is very cool, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of those 2 titles, to be honest. Like, Years Gone By makes sense, because like Days Gone By is such an iconic title. It's been so long. Having it titled Years Gone By is just like, yeah, that makes like perfect sense, right? But using the title What We Become, just in the way that it's, you know, like just looking at it, like episode 4 is titled What We. It's like, I don't know, kind of an off title. Episode 5 is titled Become. Like, that one, I guess, makes sense as a general title, but, like, I get the reference here, What We Become. That's, like, Michonne's final episode. So is episode 6 going to be titled What Comes After? Because, like, Rick's final episode is titled What Comes After. And this seems to be sort of a nod to, I guess, their characters, right? Like, Years Gone By, it's just been years, it's a nod to the beginning, whatever. What We Become is very, like, Michonne-focused, because that was Michonne's final episode, but at this point here, I imagine these 2 episodes, 4 and 5, are going to focus a lot on, you know, Rick and Michonne actually being together, talking about this and that, and a bunch of stuff. The finale, obviously, episode 6, is not aired yet. So that's what I'm wondering. Is it called, like, What Comes After? Like, I don't think they're going to be borrowing titles necessarily. Is it going to be something that is just very, very specific like that about, like, I don't know, like, what if it's titled I've Found Them, or something like that, like Rick's final words in The Walking Dead? Because in that episode, he's going to have found his family, which would confirm a reunion of some sorts. But based off of just where the trailer is kind of going, it doesn't seem like they're going to be in any sort of situation where there is a reunion. So I don't know about that. Like, this show, honestly, when you're looking at everything in terms of the story, promotion, and everything, really seems like they're going for a season 2. And I know they announced it as like the 6-episode limited series, but there hasn't been a lot of talk of that, and that has really gone away. And somebody mentioned before, and I don't know, like, again, don't take this as fact at all. Like, I've been trying to find it. I've been really trying to find it, and I can't, so that's why I'm just choosing to believe it as like, well, maybe that's true or maybe that's not. But someone out there, and again, this is unconfirmed because I literally could not find anything about this, but AMC had like a press release or something, and they were, again, this could have been a month ago, 2 months ago, or whatever, but they were showing like their limited series shows and their new series shows. And like the ones who live was like in the new series section, wasn't in the limited series section. So to me, I'm just like, I don't know if that confirms anything, but that's very interesting. And if you really look at all the promotion for every single teaser that's come out, trailer and everything, it just says new series. There's nothing about it being limited. And that's why, to me, I just have this, I'm really wondering if there is going to be a season 2, because you would figure if this was the end of Rick and Michonne, the promotion right now would be, come and watch Rick and Michonne's final story, right? Come and watch the ending to these characters. But it really is being treated as, oh, there's a new show coming out, new series, come watch this show. So it's just like the marketing and stuff doesn't really match what the show is going to be. They're sort of promoting it like, oh, there's this new series coming out. And as of now, it's just, I really feel like we're getting closer and closer to a season 2. I feel like they're not necessarily going to be confirming it and doing whatever, but I think that as of now, it is just like, this is a new series and this is just what it is. And then I think after the show ends, once that finale is over, they will most likely confirm a season 2. It might not be that night. It could be a couple of days later, but I feel like we're going to get that announcement. And that's the thing too, is we're going to know a lot more. Right now we're wondering, but we're going to know a lot more once we get to like episode 4 or 5. We're going to see where the story is going. We're going to know all the little things like, well, Major General Beale's over here. All of this still has to happen. And now we're going into episode 5. How are they going to wrap all of that up in 2 episodes here? You know what I mean? There's going to be little things like that. If the trailer for episode 5 shows Rick and Michonne super far away, or even the trailer for the finale, if it shows them very far away, we're all going to be like, wait, how did they get back to Alexandria, or I guess the Commonwealth, to reunite with Judith and RJ? Like, there's going to be like no scenes like that, right? So we're going to know within time here. Like, we are going to know exactly what's going to be happening here. And speaking of those episodes there, I really want to get into this. So obviously the first episode is coming out on February 25th. It says that here. And again, I'm getting this from Rotten Tomatoes. Episode 2 is coming out on March 6th. Now, at first, I just figured, okay, that's just a week later. Just because March 13th is exactly a week later. March 20th is exactly a week later. March 27th is exactly a week later. But that's what threw me off, was I was like, wait a minute, March 27th. That means the final episode is coming out like April 3rd or something like that. I believe it is actually April 3rd. So I was just like, that makes no sense. I remember this show ending on March 31st, exactly, like that Sunday. But then I went to go look at the actual dates, and March 6th, the second episode, that's a Wednesday. So is that going to be a new, like, again, this could just be a mistake. It's possible that Rotten Tomatoes just sort of got everything wrong here in terms of the dates. Maybe that will be fixed right away. I mean, they got the episode titles here, so there's something right. But I'm wondering if they're going to be releasing a week and a half later as of episode 2, and if that is something that we're going to be seeing, you know, going forward. Like, are they going to stay away from Sundays and as a release time? Because if you look at a lot of shows that have come out recently, they don't really release Sundays, right? Like, they've just never really released on Sundays. It's always sort of been during the week, like a Tuesday, a Thursday, a Friday kind of thing. So I'm wondering if they're trying something new. Again, this could be a mistake, but it's possible that they could be trying something new here and just releasing the show on Wednesdays, because you do have to kind of just like stay with the times as well. You know, I know that I talk about that a lot, like, oh, I want them to do character portraits again, and I want this and that, and I've always wanted all these things that they used to do back in the day. But, you know, like, TV is just different now. TV is not the way it used to be when we used to watch The Walking Dead like 10 years ago, which I can't even believe that we can say that. But 10 years ago, it was 2014. And yeah, that was around season 3 or 4 or something like that. And I remember all that very vividly. And just the way that you would promote the show back then is very different from how you would promote it now, because back then there wasn't a lot of streaming services. I mean, there was like Netflix and stuff, but like, it's so different than what it is right now, right? Because people still watch stuff on cable back then. So very, very different in terms of how they promote it. If they are going to be doing every single Wednesday, then that doesn't bother me so much, although it kind of does a little bit, because, and this is just more of a personal thing, like, you know, in terms of having to do reviews and and like watch parties and all that and stuff. Like it's going to be really difficult because I'll actually have my kids during the day. So I'm going to have to find a babysitter and all that for those days, specifically like on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on which day it actually is. And yeah, those are the episode titles. So what I will say is I'm not the biggest fan of like, I don't know. I liked it at first, you know, the first 3 being called Years Gone By. But I wish the first episode was just called Years Gone By. And this way we just get more, you know, creative titles for the other episodes. I think that would just be really cool. Like the first episode, just literally call it Years Gone By. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And then the other ones call it whatever. I guess they couldn't call an episode What We Become because that's literally already an episode title. I just, again, like, I don't know what the meaning is behind a lot of this, but there's not a lot of creativity going into this year. I guess they're just being a little bit more, I don't want to say like fan servicey, but that's kind of what it feels like with that. But again, like I don't have an issue with it. I think I would prefer newer titles here. And then if episode 1 was titled Years Gone By. So I'm kind of changing my mind on that a little bit. You know, I was a big fan of that, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think because I thought episode 4, 5, and 6 would all be something entirely different, but now that it's just going to be sort of, you know, references to titles that we've gotten before, which were big episodes from the original show, I'm like, I don't know, at this point I feel like you should call the last episode like what is that or whatever, and just have Shane return. Like I don't know, I just, again, I'm okay with the titles. That's what it is. I'm okay with them. It's just not, it's not what I would name the titles. Like I would title the first episode Years Gone By instead of splitting it up like that. I don't know, but I'm assuming everyone else likes them. So I'm probably, and I'm most likely just in a small group of people that do just like, or think the episodes are just okay, like the episode titles anyways. But I also wanted to get into something else here, and this will end the video. But Kaylee Fleming actually suggested a Walking Dead spinoff set 10 years into the future. Now, I believe I remember her saying this a long time ago, but I don't remember if it was with Insider, because the article here does reference Insider, so maybe that's where I saw it. Anyways, I'm getting this article here from Screen Rant, and the article says why a legacy spinoff would be a good way to rejuvenate the Walking Dead franchise. So anyways, yeah, just based off of this idea, that would be really cool, because, you know, like the Walking Dead ended in 2022 at the very end, but they stopped filming in early 2022. So if you waited like 10 years, so say 2032, so that's 8 more years from now. But say the show comes out like, I don't know, like maybe you want it to come out 2030 or something, so that's 6 years from now. Like around there is almost the perfect timing for this like Walking Dead, I guess, legacy type of spinoff, right? Where you focus on characters like Judith and RJ and everyone else. And then you can have all the other actors, like everyone that was in Alexandria and all that, or the Commonwealth. You can actually have them return in some way, right? And this way you can sort of have a different type of spinoff. And so if certain characters are gone, they're gone. And, you know, I think in that way, maybe in that first episode, you could have Rick show up. Say he actually survives, but he's just much older now. Maybe he's not a part of the story as much and they focus on, you know, like Judith and RJ. But I think that would be really incredible, honestly. I think that would be absolutely just incredible to see something like that, to have all of them back in the story here, and then you would just be focusing on something new. Because, and that's what I was, first of all, very excited about in terms of, you know, Dwight and Sherry, like they had a son, and, you know, Morgan now has a daughter, and like they're introducing a lot of characters here. And that's what this article does point out, that they're actually introducing a lot of like this next generation type of a story here, right? Where you have a lot of our characters that we have now sort of having, I guess, children. Like, I wouldn't say Laurent is like Daryl's child or anything like that, but, you know, I could definitely see Daryl becoming a father figure to him and then just sort of watching over him and all of that. And I think if Laurent came back from France, you know, like with Daryl, that'd be really incredible, because you would have RJ, Judith, Herschel, Laurent. I know that Negan was and kind of is watching over Ginny, so that's another character. They kind of are building out a cast, right? Like you have Morgan with his daughter, and this feels very intentional. Like out of nowhere, all of our characters start to have children out of nowhere, right? And also, not to mention, Negan has Ginny. He also does have another child, right? It's just that we haven't seen his child yet. So that's that whole thing there. It's like, it felt very random, and maybe that was because it was a very specific reason, right? There was a very specific reason why, and that is because after all of this is over, after this next arc is over with all of these characters, it's going to be the next generation, and we're going to focus on a whole new cast of characters, and there's going to be a new show that comes out, and it's going to be like the main Walking Dead show kind of thing, maybe in like 2030. This way, you could actually have Kaylee Fleming play her character, right? That would be so, so cool. Instead of doing a recast, like have Kaylee Fleming actually play Judith Grimes again. She'll be like 10 years older, so I'm not sure how old she is, but that'd make her at least in her 20s, right? Like early to mid 20s or something. So like that would be really incredible, right? Because that was always the issue with Carl and doing something, you know, with Chandler Riggs. Like, yes, he is much older now, but if he was ever going to do, you know, an older version of the character where he's like in his mid 30s and stuff, that was going to be very difficult to do, right? And so you don't necessarily have to focus on anything like that right now, and you can actually, like, you're focusing on Daryl, Negan, Maggie, Carol, Michonne, and Rick. They can be, you know, I guess the focus for the next, I guess, the 2020s. Once all of their stories end, you know, in this decade, then the 2030s could be a whole new generation thing. And that's kind of what it feels like, to be honest. It feels like that's where they're going. If you remember the original ending to The Walking Dead, that original ending actually had all of our characters grown up, like Judith and RJ. They were all recast. They were all grown up, and it was just like literally like they just went out and I think they found a radio or something and they were talking to somebody that needed help, and they were like, well, we're here to help you, kind of thing. And so they were basically out there helping people, sort of doing, you know, what their parents did, and just, you know, because they suffered everything from the very beginning, from the downfall of the entire world. And so now it's the next generation doing the same thing. And it was kind of a really cool ending, but they didn't use that ending, obviously. And I feel like that's because they weren't sure if they were going to be able to get Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrero to film those scenes. But they did, so they changed that ending, thankfully. And so, you know, that ending just built up and just hyped up the entire Walking Dead universe. So I could see them doing this. I could see them having this as a plan overall. Like, I think it will happen. And I do predict, like, 2030, there's going to be some talk about it. There will be an announcement, or maybe the show will air that year. I'm literally giving that prediction that in 2030, there will be something with this. And I do think by 2030, the story will overall be over, I do think, in terms of Rick and Michonne, Negan, Maggie. Like, I just think just this current story with the CRM and all that will be completely over. Though, again, I could totally see some characters being in this next generation show, like Daryl and Maggie, though I see them playing more of like the Herschel type of role. You know, they will be much older. I don't know about Maggie. I guess Maggie's still like much younger, but I could see Daryl, you know, at that point, he'll probably be 60 years old, you know, if they're jumping forward in time a little bit. I mean, I think the character is like around 50 already. So like in 10 more years, yeah, I can see the character being about 60 years old, you know, and then just maybe he can kind of help the characters out a little bit. And that would be so cool. You know, I think Norman Reedus would do that because he does, again, he's talked about that before. He likes seeing his character age on screen. Like, he just likes to see, I guess, himself age on screen. And playing Daryl specifically, you can just see that character age from the beginning up until now. And it would be so cool if eventually he had like white hair and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. There's just something about that is very cool. Like, it's just seeing the overall story of Daryl Dixon, literally his life on screen, is just something that really is, like, in terms of an apocalyptic story, that's the stuff that you want. Like, I've always felt that way. And this is why I love The Walking Dead. Like, going back to the very, very beginning, like before The Walking Dead aired, I remember, you know, the zombie genre in general, I always felt like it ended right when it got exciting. You know, it always ended in a way where it was like they were about to cure something, or like they just got out and survived, or this and that. But I always had these questions of like, well, where are they going to go now? Like, yeah, they got away from the city or this and that, but like, where are they going next? Like, there's still going to be this threat out there and all of that. And what's the world like? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've always felt like they ended way too soon, and The Walking Dead always continued that story. That's why, to me, I feel like the first season of The Walking Dead very much plays out like your typical zombie movie. But then the second season takes it and goes further, and then you start to see them just encounter new groups, this and that. And then you get into a lot of that, which I think that's why everything has always felt very relatable. I think when you get into like Shiva and things like that, it could get a little silly, you know, but I think that was more of a comic book thing. So they are sort of borrowing from the comic. But my point is, overall, like, that's what's made The Walking Dead very, very relatable. And so I am overall very excited. I can't wait for The Ones Who Live It. It's premiering in 25 days. So definitely post all your thoughts on, I guess, the episode titles. And will you be playing The Walking Dead's crossover with Call of Duty Warzone? Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.